Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. The words of Adoranda are the ones that I would bring you as well. Adoranda speaks of a field that you have. And there are various names for this. And we have spoken of it as well. And some call it the Merkaba or Merkaba. There is a human field of consciousness that some say is uniquely spiritual. Others say it's simply the vehicle that the human rides in, which is multidimensional. But the consensus, and you'd be right, is that you all have this. So I'm going to present something else. In physics, there's a tremendous energy created often when one field intersects another. And you see this with your magnetics, with the heliosphere of the sun, with the earth. It is common knowledge. And here sits a human being with a field. Is it possible that the field around you, which you don't see, called air, or the ethers, also carries a multidimensionality with it? And that has changed since 2012. Do you think it's possible that in an older energy where darkness was more prevalent and had more influence, that particular sacred field was not near as effective as it is today? I just gave you a truth. So let's review what I just said so that you'll understand the next stage. In this new energy since 2012 and building, the veil has lifted slightly. It allows an energy which we will call the field. A multidimensionality of coherence that is all around you. And it doesn't push upon you, it doesn't show you anything, but it's there to be discovered. And what this means, dear ones, is with free choice, any human being who wants to can touch it, to awaken to it, to tap into it, to learn from it, to see it in whatever way you wish to and say, whatever this is, I like it. And I want to show this to you in a practical way of who sits here in front of me and who listens. Every single time we have these kinds of meetings, a raise of hands is asked for. How many for the first time? And usually the audience represents 20% of those who have not been to a Kryon meeting before. And when you would ask them, well, what brings you this time? They will say, well, I found you and the channeling at some level, some place. And listen. Now, dear ones, this is the actionable point of all of this. Something brought you to listen to what many would think would be not viable for the time. Too odd, too strange. Most people too smart to go there, too smart to look at it. And there you are listening to it. Something had to happen in order to bring you to that place that said, I'll at least listen. And then something else happened. You, by listening, gave permission for truth to be given. And in that, you began to see something. And the purity of compassion and love is something you cannot fake. And it's there to be seen, experienced, and felt. And it soothes the heart with information that says to you, All of the things that you suspected through your innate since you got here may be correct. They may fly in the face of everything you've been told about the creative source, God, if you wish, Spirit. And it asks you to feel the truth. There is no evangelism in any of this. For there's nothing to join. There's nothing to read. There's no prophet to follow. It simply says this: how do you feel about what you're hearing? And the field that intersects with that Merkaba is fresh and it's new. And for the first time, there are so many who start to feel it and know it to be true. There is something to be said that the truth will seek its highest level. But something even more that says things are different. And your innate is going to respond differently since 2012 than it ever has before. And that innate of yours, the things that you intuitively knew when you got here, was put there by the Creator, so if you should look, it'll start vibrating. And there are so many listening to this and in this audience who experienced that vibrating and knew intuitively, aha, I want more. And what they were attracted to, dear ones, was a truth that was magnificent about themselves. Not a doctrine, not a following, not a procedure, no rules, just truth. And the more they listened, the more they realized that these things were not a trick, but they belonged to the innate in them, and they felt worthy. And they knew there was family around. And that's what brought many of them to the chairs here. And many of you listening, I would like to tell those who are listening for the first time, who feel that this truth may very well be something that rings for them, that they are not alone. Hundreds of thousands are starting to awaken to a truth that does not mean they join anything except a higher consciousness of the human race. They're joining an evolution that will be a revolution in consciousness, which demands things that those here now would never believe could happen. Demanding integrity in government, demanding integrity in science, demanding that there is full disclosure and transparency and compassion and integrity, again, I use the word, in things that have had none for generations. And it's beginning, if you've watched your news. All of that is contained in this new field. Call it, if you wish, a coherence of compassion that intersects with you, if you want to look at it. And it never pushes. Because you have free choice, dear ones, you're going to want to have to look. I'm going to use this example yet again and again and again. 30 years ago, when my partner sat in the chair, he made a statement. As the practical one that he was, as the one not interested in these esoteric things that he was, the one who would run away from metaphysics, is who he was, made a statement. Before he sat in the chair, he said, Kryon, if you're there, show me. And he didn't know it at that point in time, but he had opened the door and given permission to be shown. That's all it takes. He looked. Dear ones, here is the promise. For those who wish to look with integrity and mean it, there will be answers. You will be shown things you didn't expect. and they will be magnificent. There is no downside to the love of God. There's no side effect except health and joy that could be there for you to feel. Too good to be true, I challenge you. Ask if it's okay to look. Once you ask, I want to know more, even if you're prepared to slam the door because you don't like it, I'll tell you, if you ask, these things will start to pour out. And what are these things? I'll tell you, depending upon who you are and what you're interested in and your life and your Akash, Spirit will tailor-make synchronicities for you to show you and show you and show you. And sometimes you may not like these channels, or you may shut the door and you'll say, I'm not interested, only to find synchronicity, have it show up again and again. And you'll be in a strange place for you, maybe at work or maybe on a commuter train, and you'll meet somebody and they'll say, do you know Kryon? And you'll say, what did you say? Have you listened to the YouTube? Have you listened to the site? Do you know the name? And you won't believe it. And it's not a prophet, and it's not a religion, and it's not a following. It's simply magnificent it's magnificent information about you. You've opened the door for you. That's what it's about. And then you find out who you are and who you've been and perhaps why you're here. And it starts to shake hands with so many things around you. And then you know there's no accidents. And then you take a look. And that's the way it begins. I'm going to give a message tonight that I previewed all at once for my partner in 2 seconds on stage a moment ago. It's more of what I want to tell you about what human consciousness will create in the future, if you let it. Where things may be going personally for you, physically for you, if you let it. It's a channel of pieces and parts I've given before, but not in this way, a summary. Now, I tell you that for those listening in the wrong place, you'll never find that channel. You'll have to go to the place where they're all together, listed in order. What a puzzle. I'll be back. I am crying in love with humanity. And so it is.